None of the following should be taken as business, investment, legal, or tax advice. Enjoy the podcast. Hello and welcome to the SwapSpace Huddle podcast, brought to you by SwapSpace, the leading crypto exchange aggregator with over 4,100 assets available to buy, sell, and swap at your disposal. Head over to swapspace.co today and use a reliable service that you can be sure in. Today I am joined by Nick Avramov. Nick is a man of merit, I do have to say, because he has been a part of many projects, and now he's going to tell us what he's doing right now. So welcome to the first edition of the video podcast for SwapSpace Huddle, and let's give word to Nick.
Thank you for having me today. Would love to talk about different topics that we're going to cover today. Maybe some brief introduction from my side as well. So yes, my name is Nick. I've been in crypto since 2016. So first I did master thesis on the use of blockchain technology in logistics and supply chain management. Wow. It was in Instituto Empresas de Madrid. It's a business school in Madrid. And so because my teacher was from Mr. Schulte, he was from Fraunhofer Institute it's one of the biggest Institute of Economics and Logistics and so on and so forth in Germany. And so in 2016, he just came across me and said that, Nick, you probably need to dive in what Bitcoin is and what blockchain is. So I really dived, and so I did my master thesis. And then simultaneously at that time, I was working in a company that were selling ads on Google and Facebook. So it was user acquisition boutique based in Cyprus. And in this intersection of my, let's say, academic or semi-academic career and my professional status, I just dived in, and I found that there were a lot of projects that were raising money for like landing page and a white paper built just in 1 week or something. So it was like ICO era of crypto.
And
the ICO
it was insane.
Boom. Yes, and I've been working in several projects there. Then I ended up working in VC, early stage VC, and we developed Swiss crypto bank there. I was number one hire in marketing in this team. Then I've been working in a company which is called Change Now. I was marketing director in that company. And in 2021, I co-founded Symbiosis protocol, which is IMMDEX. So I'm still one of the founding members of this, but I'm not yet in operation since October 2023.
So you're just like a board member?
Correct.
Oh, wow, that's nice. I had not expected you to mention the fact that you have an academic background, especially in crypto.
Yes, but to tell the truth, it was not the academic background directly in crypto, but in managerial studies. Yeah. So in our cohort of students, we with my colleague were among the first one, I think, even in the whole business school to write a master thesis on blockchain. Actually, my academic background is in philosophy because my major first was philosophy, and I thought that I should be a sociologist probably because I thought that maybe I'm not too smart to be a philosopher. But then it turned out that I ended up in business school. I passed TOEFL, GMAT test, graduate manager's admission test, and also interview, and that was the story. So it all comes in a quite sporadic way, I would say.
Yeah, wow. You did give me a speech right there. And if I was hired, let me tell you, I'd definitely hire you. You are probably the first person ever to come to this podcast. Again, as I mentioned, with something to do on an academic background with blockchain, because you wrote a master thesis on blockchain.
Actually, it's kind of interesting because I took an example of a permissioned blockchain network. It was Hyperledger Fabric because it was 2016 and Ethereum didn't exist at that time.
Wow. But you did manage to see the craze of the ICO boom of 2016. And boy, let me tell you, there were a lot of scams on that time.
99%, I would say, without exaggeration.
Because there was no regulation at all. Yeah.
That's correct, and a lot of easy money. Lot of easy money, and also that was in the first cycle, but what we saw in the first cycle, I slightly count like 2016 to 17, and then the downturn like starting from October 2017. Lots of people came into crypto just out of nothing and disappeared to nothing, and it was quite interesting.
Yeah,
time.
there were a lot of, almost all of them were pseudo-anonymous teams.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
And I have to say the crypto industry has learned a lot from that time, because with everything that came into play with regulations and everything that has to do with founders having to, show their face and, facilitate at least some bit of trust for the project to actually prosper and have, maybe like a vesting schedule in their tokenomics, and, not have that crazy feeling of selling the total supply of everything that you have as a founder because your token skyrocketed somewhere. But that's good stuff, man. I really appreciate the fact that you were so open about your background. And yeah, you are the first person to have some sort of academic background in this podcast. Now, moving forward, with everything that you have said so far, I really think that we should get into the discussion of Bitcoin, because obviously Bitcoin is the cornerstone of crypto, and a lot of people would agree with me on this, and probably a lot of the people that are watching or listening to this episode would have their kind of opinion of Bitcoin. And I wonder what your opinion is, because as you said, your mentor, sorry, I forgot the name.
Yes, Mr. Schulte.
Yeah, Mr. Schulte. He told you that you should look into it. And 2016, again, was a crazy time. And it was a crazy time because Bitcoin was not at an all-time high like it is right now.
It experienced some all-time highs, like local ones, I think in 2013 and 17.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into even, trying to guess what the price of Bitcoin back at that time was, because I don't want to get a lot of comments correcting me. But I do have to ask you a question. Had you invested in Bitcoin back then?
Unfortunately, no. My first investment in Bitcoin came in late 2017, almost before the crash. So
still a very good time.
Compared to now, yes, of course. But then for a couple of years, I was pretty much downset, I would say. Because at some point, I invested like, let's say roughly. So the top of the cycle of 2017 and 16 and 17 was about 20,000 or something, at 22. Okay, let's say 22. I invested, let's say, at 16, and then in 2019 it was 3.
Wow.
So it was,
That must have been a rough time, and you probably didn't have the thought of holding it until 2024 back then.
Yes, but at that time in 2017 I invested not too much amount, and that's why. So I still kept it, and so
I can see by your reaction, because you were not so mad about losing that investment.
I was at the time, but it was all right.
I mean, if it was something like $100,000 invested, you probably would have had a better reaction.
Not really. I was just recent graduate. What about thousands of?
Yeah. Well, that's true for most of us, and I guess it's going to be true for everyone that's listening to this episode, because we do have a certain demographic, and that demographic is mostly millennial people that are actively trying to find something new for them. And this is a question that I ask to all of my guests, because again, this adaptation from Web 2 to Web 3 is happening, and right now it's at around 6 to 7% worldwide. I'm not sure if that's the correct number, but it roughly is.
You mean the population world?
Yeah, the population of people in the world who use crypto or have encountered it in some way.
That's an interesting question. Yeah. I also don't know the exact number.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. But because my question stems from another point of view that I wanted to ask you. So we have this question, again, as I mentioned, about crypto adoption. And crypto adoption recently has seen a very big surge because, again, the times are now bullish. With Bitcoin hitting an all-time high, it's gone down a little bit, but still, people have made a 2x. People have made a 1.5x out of all the investments that they made.
90 something thousand.
Yeah, it's 97,000, and back like in October it was 53, which is absolutely bonkers, absolutely insane. But Bitcoin is not the biggest gainer from all of this, and it truly shows the fact that the crypto world has evolved, because projects like Solana, Ton blockchain, everything that has to do with comparing the old goose that laid the golden eggs, which is Bitcoin, and everything new, we have evolved from 2008 to massive heights. And XRP is probably like one of the best examples here because
That's
actually managed to hit like a top 5 in CMC, which was absolutely insane. I was really surprised to see that because I never thought it would come to life, but it definitely did. And so we're seeing this global crypto adoption. What do you think is the next big thing that will help a big chunk of people adopt Web3?
Well, that's a pretty tough question because typically I'm trying to answer it after all the interview, so I need time to think. But yeah, to tell the truth, I think that when we can use crypto on just a daily basis, and this daily basis goes beyond just payments, but we can think of digital identity, of selling your data, not in a manner that you do now with Web2 companies like Facebook and Google, when it's not, it's deliberately that you're doing this. So they are just not, that they are not asking permission to sell your data. When you can control this and can earn something on top of this, when you can have like, I also pretty much bullish on narrative about different AI narratives. Like for instance, if you have like artificial intelligence agents that can perform custom actions for you for different things, for smart home, for I don't know, for some other facilities, for some work automation of what you can do in case you're an accountant or something, and you can just outsource this and earn money on this and so on and so forth. So that's what I say when I'm talking about crypto on a daily basis. That pretty much resonates with the ethos of Ton Foundation. I'm not showing them, but their motto is crypto in every pocket. That's what I feel. Plus, on top of this, I also feel that this application in our daily life can also be in the form of real-world assets. So far, we saw that real-world assets were mostly concentrated in forms of tokenized treasury bills, for instance. But and different companies sold this.
And they're also tied to mostly stablecoins.
Yes, and pegged in US dollars. When we can see the shift from this not technological but business centralization towards different economies, different countries, different types of assets, for instance, real estate or some structured products or whatever, and then you're going on the street with your mobile phone, can perform some custom actions with all this. That's what I mean in your daily life. To suffice your needs, like in savings, in transferring value, in managing your data, maybe managing your health, or managing your personal identity. Because now also a big narrative that I feel pretty much resonates with what I have in my mind is that our web presence is monopolized by a number of companies. I can provide an example. Without Google ID, you cannot use Google services. You can't use Android, for instance. And all mobile networks, not mobile networks, but mobile operating systems are monopolized by two companies. It's either Apple or it's Google. If they ban you for some reason, then you're nothing in digital space. And that's not what I feel that we should have in our society. For instance, recently, this year, I also participated in translation of a book of Chris Dixon from A16Z, the book Read, Write, Own. So I participated in translation of this book into Russian language. And so, and also Chris states that this transition from Web 2 to Web 3, when we have full control over our digital identities in the internet, always in the internet, that's the shift that necessarily would happen. And with all our efforts in crypto, with everything that we do, we can just somehow accelerate this process. That's what I feel about the future of adoption. And I see, just circling back on your question, on your original question about Bitcoin and so on and so forth, I feel that this definitely goes beyond Bitcoin, and I expect that at some point Bitcoin will lose its dominance in terms of crypto dominance over other assets. So now it's 56 or something, and I think it definitely will drop. But Bitcoin will, I think that it's going to stay as a sort of a gold standard in crypto and to hedge different risks. But other blockchain networks networks beyond Bitcoin, L2s, L1s, and so on and so forth, especially specific networks built to circumvent some problems of the source chain, like for instance Uniswap is launching their network. We definitely will see the uprise in this, and that's I'm pretty much optimistic about this movement.
I fully agree.
Sorry for such an elaborated
that was
answer.
actually very good. That was very good because I'm fully agreeing with every single point that you made. I think we've raised this question a lot in our podcast, and the rhetoric is kind of the same because there needs to be something that happens beyond just the financial state of blockchain. There needs to be a great utility for blockchain to actually prosper and be adopted by the majority of the people in the world. And you're absolutely right about companies monopolizing the attention and everything that you can do on the space, like Google and Apple. I don't really necessarily think that it's a bad thing, but I do think there's room for competition.
For some point of time, it was inevitable that it could happen. So but that's nothing bad about this, of course.
And what I'm trying to say is the fact that they have monopolized this industry, widely because you have super apps that you can use. Telegram is actually becoming another super app that is going to combat this and be a competitor to all of this because you have all these mini apps that you can use in Telegram, which can be compared to Google Play services, and you have everything that you can build on the Tong blockchain, which is essentially the same as going to Google and using its services to have everything that regards to your information on their cloud and everything.
That's still a tricky thing because, and I hope that my friends from Tong Foundation won't fight me on the street after my words, but it's still tricky that Telegram itself is 100% Web 2 service, which is like fully, it has full ownership over your data, and it's still not yet merged with Tong blockchain. It's a hard problem to do, actually.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's going to involve a lot of
apps is not on blockchain. It's not on-chain activity.
The only thing that is probably
whatever, but we understand. So I'm not here to blame Tong Foundation, whatever. They are all my friends, but
they have a path to take.
Correct.
Yeah, they do have a path to take in this because this adoption definitely is not going to come very fast. It's going to be very slow, and I like the fact that it's going to be very slow because it's going to have a very big impact on what it's going to be like in the future and as a result of everything that they have done so far. And I would not like them to rush it at all because we've had a lot of talks about the Tong Foundation on this podcast previously, especially with Bradley. Bradley's like the number one fan of Tong Foundation and everything that is to do with Tong blockchain. And I think this path and convergence of Web 2 and Web 3 when it comes for both Telegram and everything that is able to be used on Telegram, such as mini apps, the wallets, and everything else, it's going to have a lot of regulatory battles.
Of course.
Yeah, a lot of the jurisdictions, especially in the CIS region, a lot of the jurisdictions in China are probably not going to allow something like that to go through, and they're probably going to outright ban this service.
But as well as in the US, for instance, because regarding like data threats or something, they still have this problem with TikTok, for instance, because it was a problem that they asked the company to sell it to the US
because
authority.
A lot of data.
Yes, correct. And Chinese government then banned this decision because they don't want to sell the algorithm and so on and so forth. So it's always tough. But
that's a great example that you made there because I think an entertainment app like TikTok needs to exist on the blockchain too.
Of course, because we saw this with the uprise of all these meme tokens. Because what meme tokens? I know some opinions about them that it's all about like fun, it's all about attention, so on and so forth, and definitely it's attention economy. So we don't, and that's interesting because actually that what makes them slightly different from what we saw in Web 2 space. Because Web 2 it's not protocols. Web 2 networks. They are mostly built on network effect. So, for instance, Tinder started, or Facebook, for instance. Facebook started as a sort of local network for Harvard University, as far as I recall. One of the biggest universities, I can't recall which one exactly.
For Harvard,
but
yes.
For Harvard University. And then it scaled on other universities, and then it goes beyond the university. So it's sort of network effect. Meme tokens, they do not have network effect. So they are more like a sort of a virus. So they are viral. So that means that they do not need to establish local atomic connections with other network. Instead, in just blast
Yeah.
And that's it.
But that blast can also very easily, pass away.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's always
The brighter the fire burns, the faster it's gonna, die out. And I think that's especially the case with meme coins. But meme tokens, sorry. But I do like the comparison that you made with Facebook because, a very big thing that we're missing here, and especially all of the crypto community is missing here, is the Metaverse era. You probably remember a lot of projects that promised, to be the future of everything.
I even recall some developers of Metaverse.
Jeez. Metaverse is dead now. Yeah, and I'm very much happy that it died, and it died at the hands of Facebook trying to implement it. But I'm very surprised that Meta and Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg and everyone that is making the decisions there, why are they not adopting blockchain? Because blockchain is the next big thing, and it actually works. It shows it has great value overall. There's a big amount of global adoption again because of the bullish times. And it's very surprising to me because I was actually researching this question and I was trying to find out why these big companies, why these big conglomerates that actually have all the funds in the world, especially like an infinite money glitch, why are they not adopting this technology? Well, because again, there is a lot of decentralization to this technology, of course, and a lot of people use it because of the decentralization aspect of it. And so when we're talking about governance of all these blockchain projects or anything that is built on the blockchain, they would still prefer to be very centralized, keep everything to themselves, keep all of the control to themselves. And I don't think they're even going to have like a good dream about DeFi or DAOs because when everything goes on autonomous and there's no central point of governance again, it's something that scares them away. And that's my opinion on it.
It also costs a lot.
Yeah.
Imagine how much, in case you could put everything on chain, for instance, like every single interaction via Facebook, like every single like, every single repost, every single whatever. If you put this on chain into even network, let's say some L2 or L3 with pretty much, I would say, decent low cost, it still will cost a lot. Way more than it's in a centralized system. So with decentralization, it's sort of an existential choice, and also it's a sort of like, it's definitely a choice. And for every choice you have to pay, just literally. And so that's hard. Regarding Facebook, I'm still like, I'm not here for conspiracy theory, but that's interesting that the original team that we were working on the stablecoin DM, or I can recall the exact name, probably it was DM, the stablecoin system for Facebook, it then split it into companies. One of them now called Aptos and second called Sway.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
you know your stuff, right?
Did they totally break all the bridges with Facebook? I don't know.
They probably didn't. I mean, it's all hidden stuff because you can imagine that Facebook or Meta is actually probably being pushed by the government to actually, again, with everything that has happened so far, and Mark Zuckerberg sitting in front of the Senate, allegedly for selling data of a billion users. There's probably something happening behind the scenes because I just can't imagine conglomerate companies like, again, Google, Facebook, not going to a literal cash cow and making money. There has to be a reason as to why they're not doing it yet.
Maybe regulatory reason, I don't know. Because still all this, when we are talking about big tech, it's all happening in the US. Because do you know any like big tech company in Europe, for instance? No. And companies in China, they are pretty much under the hood. So we don't know what actually happened
China
there.
is only behind CBDCs, apparently.
That's it. And probably for that reason, Chinese government doesn't want... Of course, it's sort of speculation, so I don't know for sure, but probably that's the reason why Chinese government don't want to invest in other networks in case they can provide and promote their own CBDC as well in this trade war with the US and in the changing world that we see. Probably they would better bet on their own CBDC than to split attention to different projects and whatever. I don't know. It's pretty much.
I think you're right. I think you're right because China and US have completely different strategies when it comes to regulatory spaces. I mean, China has outright banned trading, mining, and they only have CBDCs, while on the other hand you have the two sides of the U.S. governance, which is the state and
but U.S. government
law.
already have their scam token with unlimited supply that recently hit 36 trillion. So
be very careful. Yeah, you got to be very careful with that. But I mean, the U.S. dollar still holds its place. I'm not sure how, but I'm not a political guy, and I'm not definitely into the economics of US.
I think it's going to remain its influence, because when there were like some talks about stablecoin payments regarding Tether and Circle and so on and so forth, in one of his interviews, Paolo Ardoino, who is one of the founders and CEO of, I think he's CTO of Tether and Bitfinex, and he said that actually, we with USDT, we are promoting US dollar because every single trade is pegged to US dollar.
Yeah.
So we are facilitating trades with US dollar. So instead of like combating us, you need to promote us.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty much agree with this. And given that all the trades and all the intermediaries that we currently have, I expect that at some point of time we will see that some local governments, maybe they will launch their own stable coins back to their national currency or whatever, but still like 99%, like I don't know, even 100% of trades is intermediated via USDT or USDC or US-backed dollar, US-backed coin. So it's going to remain anyway. So I'm pretty much optimistic about the US currency anyway.
And I want to further support you on that because, I mean, everyone that works in crypto probably gets their payment and everything that it has to do with their salary in USDT. And imagine if they got their salary in Bitcoin and Bitcoin actually went down 20%, the next day.
That's it.
Yeah, people would not like that. And people are definitely abusing the stability of stablecoins. And I think there's a lot of things to do with the regulatory space, again, because both Tether and USDC and even Terra USD kind of failed in terms of regulation, specifically for the reasons that you mentioned. And we're going to be mentioning this more on our video about crypto regulations. So that's going to be a deep dive topic there. That's for everyone watching on YouTube. But now I would actually like to move forward to another topic that I wanted to discuss. In terms of regulatory space, we managed to touch on different topics, again, regarding stablecoins and regarding the CBDCs, different stances of different regions on crypto and etc. If we want to dial things down a little bit, we can actually go back to the topic of blockchain beyond finance, because there are a lot of things that we managed to discuss in terms of utility and the things that you mentioned, but I didn't really have the chance to, get into the deep dive of this topic. And I really want to do that because, especially again, with crypto adoption becoming more and more accessible, there is a lot of things to do with people learning about crypto. And I think the key factor that will play a pivotal role in the global adoption and the surge of this global adoption, where we'll go from 6-7% to like 20%, it's going to be the educational aspect. And me and you, we kind of got our information here and there working with different projects because, again, there is not a specific degree that you can get in university for blockchain.
I think some already exist, but I can't verify the quality.
But still, it's going to take some time. Yeah, you actually have to study for 4 or 5 years to actually get your certificate. Become professional.
There exists some master degrees in cryptocurrency and so on and so forth.
Yeah, you can get
University
certificates
of Nicosia, I think. Yeah. But once again, I can't verify is it about quality or it's about hype for this university to promote such courses?
It should definitely be the part of the IT programs of universities, because you're using crypto on a daily basis, even if you're not like a crypto savvy user, because you're definitely enjoying the service that you can get, this borderless crypto that allows you to connect to the entire world. It's definitely something that you would not miss if you're a very tech-savvy person, right? And I want to ask you a question on this topic. What do you think is going to be the next big step in terms of education and educating people on crypto that needs to be taken to, again, come to that surge and influx of new users in Web3?
That's a great question. I think that the idea that let me try to reframe.
Yeah, you can. Think about it.
The idea that people originally in crypto, back in 2008 when Satoshi wrote his thesis on Bitcoin, this paper, and all these CryptoPunk movement back in 90s and so on and so forth. So people expected that every single person could be a programmer. So that every single person can dive into cryptography primitives and have know-how in code, in code design, and so on and so forth. It's not true.
Very far from true.
People pretty much lazy, and that's not because like people are lazy in itself, but because we already have like infrastructure, especially Web2 infrastructure, that helps us meet our daily goals pretty easily. If we need to rent a flat or book just a hotel room for a night of stay in Istanbul, for instance, we can use Airbnb or Booking.
Yeah.
In case we need to, of course, there are some limitations now due to political situation, so on and so forth.
Well,
but
let me stop you there a little bit. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I can already see the right direction that you want to go to, which is user experience.
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. So in case you need to transfer money abroad, whatever you're using, Revolut or N26 or some other banks, for instance, if you are familiar with them, or New Bank in Brazil, for instance. And so still we need to figure out from user perspective what interfaces we need to enable in crypto so that it can be easily manageable. For instance, one particular thing, me and you probably are pretty much okay with different addresses given the network that you need to send payment.
Non-custodial wallets.
And this. Just regular people on the street, they don't want to know like either they need to send like on Tron network or Bitcoin or whatever, or what gas token they need to have. Instead, they want to send USDT or whatever other token. And that's it. Nothing to think about the other thing.
People open Bybit and see all these million different buttons and they're going to be lost.
Correct. And I think that technologies like account abstraction and chain abstraction that recently popped up this year. So I think that they can slightly help us to bring more people in the space because they make these things pretty much easier. So the interfaces with account abstraction, for instance, when one of the factors can be just your email address and you don't need to save, at least at first interaction, don't need to save seed phrase or whatever, or to think about what seed phrase is. That's pretty what we need to have all on the way in crypto, like in every single domain, in DEXs, in wallets, in yield farmers, in, I don't know, liquidity protocols, in lendings, and NFTs, and whatever, in gaming, for instance, and so on and so forth. So regarding the education, because this question that you raised, it's twofold. So it's education and adoption. Yeah. And so in terms of adoption, I would say that user experience is a king here, of course. Regarding education, what types of content and so on and so forth should work. Honestly, I don't know, but I think that the surge of different AI agents, and especially conversational AI agents, when you can just raise a question and get an answer, that can slightly improve the user experience in crypto as well. And that can be, I can put it that way, just for simplicity. In case you have a platform as simple as Duolingo for learning languages, to ask a question about crypto, then it would be great.
Wow. That's actually a great answer. And you managed to hit all my buttons there because I was thinking about all the things that you mentioned. And I was saying, yes, that's right. Yes, the user experience is key. Yes, that's what we need to get the people educated on the topic. And yes, that's why that's why we're a part of that, education here with this podcast. And I raise this question a lot with my guests because, again, I just can't stress this enough. People need to be educated on this topic. People need to be educated on this industry and what's happening in this industry because, again, it's definitely and undeniably going to be the future of the world. I mean, not, in a grand sense, it's not going to be saving lives, obviously it's not, the next big thing in healthcare, but definitely in terms of technology, it's going to be there.
But to some extent, it might save even people life. But it would not be about crypto, but about blockchain.
Yeah.
Because you can use
healthcare.
Yes, in healthcare. Yeah. I even tried to make a project in healthcare back in 2019, but then it was pretty much tough because all the healthcare data, especially for instance in some countries, they are tailored to local regulation and even local crypto primitives.
Yeah.
And local crypto primitives is not necessarily not composable. Complementary to the crypto primitives that are used in blockchain protocols like in Bitcoin, ECDC cryptography or whatever. They're pretty much different. So it's also a question of legislation, of course, but I also see kind of application here as well.
Yeah, because imagine if me and you, we happen to be somewhere in India and Indian hospitals don't have records of our medical history.
That's it.
But imagine if they were actually available on the blockchain that is utilized worldwide.
In case they could have an option to ask a permission to this data.
That's absolutely correct.
That definitely could help save lives, for instance, for people with some rare diseases or some.
Yeah, because even seconds play a very big role when you're trying to discuss whether or not the person is going to be having an allergic reaction to a certain type of anesthetic.
Of course,
that's a very important thing, and that's why people have these kind of bracelets that they put on themselves, which is going to redirect them to a website that is going to actually show all the data. And I saw this startup actually in Russia too, because there was a startup that involved people, especially the elderly people, having this bracelet on them. Mm-hmm. It would be for of course emergency uses, and anyone who actually opened up this bracelet, scanned the QR code, could actually go to the website and actually see the medical record of this person. So this person is actually having allergic reactions to this and that type of treatment that you can try, whether or not you're in the know-how of
Plus it can enable next wave in case we are talking about medicine and medical science in general. It can enable a next wave of startups in the space in case the person has let's say a digital identity and medical card, and different providers can connect to this data, so you don't need to have analysis in every single clinic, because for instance if you are traveling you probably don't have this with you, and a lot of application can be found.
It would also be very beneficial for pharmaceutical companies, because they would have the access to this data. They would have access to the data of how many people get sick from flu, season by season, and they would actually be able to gather this data and work on that data and try to develop a new type of treatment in the lab that they usually do, which is going to be 10, 15, 20 times % better.
It's also regarding
from that data.
Regarding prediction of some events that might happen, that some new COVID or something may happen in this particular region. So of course.
I do like this topic that we're discussing right now, because we always focus on the financial side of things when we're talking about crypto, but blockchain is just so good. I mean, when you really think about it, it's not something that is really special. It's not a genius invention that was brought to this world by some miracle man. It's actually very simple in its use, but the way it is simple in its use and the way it is actually being able to, come to our daily lives and, have this utility, it's just great. And I want to further support your points on, new emerging types of companies that can actually come to the blockchain technology and the crypto industry, because they can also benefit from this. And the reason why I raise this question and the reason why I have this discussion again is to actually further educate the people that listen and watch, because it's not just about crypto scams. It's not just about Bitcoin. It's about a lot more than just Bitcoin and everything.
It's just a big scale and big perspective of where we are going.
Yes.
So how, in some perspective, of course, it's about chances. So it's not 100%.
Yeah, of course.
But it's about chances, how our world will look like in, let's say, 10 years or 15 years or something.
And I would definitely love.
And it's good to anticipate it, of course, to adapt.
And I would definitely love to see that world, unfold and be a part of that world. Like for instance, I use 3 different cards right now. I use a card.
Lucky you, I'm using 7 or 8.
No, I mean, one is my banking card, of course, obviously, because there's not a lot of crypto adoption where we live. The second is the key to my office, and the third one is the key that I use for public transport.
Okay.
But imagine if I could combine that into one card that has all my data on it about my digital identity. And every single service that I use can be tied to this card. And there's going to be this little neat NFC module in it that can read and verify me in certain situations. And what if that NFC module can also be integrated into my phone? So instead of using these cards, I can actually use my phone.
Plus, you can receive personalized advertising based on your
Yes.
actual perception and your
Yes.
actual spending habits, not just some random advertising that we are all like
not
receiving
because-
email, whatever, but
Yeah.
based on your like precision advertising, based on your actual spending and actual manner of how you're living.
That's actually a genius thing that you mentioned, and
It's hard to
hard
build
to
one.
implement. Yeah.
Yes, but it's
I
it's
think,
a great thing.
But I think companies like Google and Facebook would probably have no problem implementing something like that because of their infinite money glitch or whatever. But you actually make a very great point. And again, I do really like the fact that our visions are kind of converging here, because this is definitely the undeniable future that we want to see for crypto and blockchain technology all around. With that being said, I kind of want to move to the bad side of crypto, because again, we have managed to discuss so many good things about crypto. The way you're able to utilize this technology, the way you're able to make money off certain investments, because there's again a bullish time right now, and the different types of things that have to do with the jurisdictions and the regulatory space. But undeniably, there are a lot of bad things happening in crypto. And we managed to touch on this topic because we briefly and accidentally discussed the ICO boom of 2016. And God, what a horrible time that was.
That was a horrible time, but I think that it pretty much was. It was the same as in the next cycle in 2021.
Yeah.
So it slightly changed, but in the essence, it didn't change.
it was not that bad, because I was doing research on this topic, because again, I was looking into the side of things that have to do with crypto regulations, and I actually mentioned the ICO boom in one of the videos that we're going to be filming, because again, it's an undeniable topic that comes to mind when you're talking about crypto. And the only good thing that we can take from it is, again, the fact that we have learned so much from that time. The fact that there has been a lot of regulation implemented, again, because of everything that happened.
But except for regulation, I would also say that founders themselves become much more cautious.
Yeah.
Because in 2016, 17, nobody knew that it would last for 10 years, for 5 years.
Yeah,
for
nobody expected it.
So you can raise money and fade away, and that was pretty much a strategy. But now I feel that every single founder, and not even founders, but also team members, not even not C-level team, everyone thinking about the reputation and what he or she gonna do next, because the industry doesn't tolerate such a malicious activity.
Yeah.
No longer it tolerates it.
You're going to be very skeptical about a team that is anonymous right now.
And not even anonymous. In case you, I can provide some example without naming this particular person. One person was a head of country for one particular exchange, and then there was some rumors about that he probably stole money or something. I don't know. Now this person is pretty much famous. He one of the expert in what he is doing in this space. I don't know what happened in the past, but it take a long time for him to somehow wash his reputation and to gain trust back. So it was really hard. Now it's very famous person.
That's very interesting.
I can't name him, but still.
I mean, touching on this topic, I can actually tell you that I'm undeniably and fully on the rhetoric that you are not going to be held responsible for anything that you do in the crypto space. Because again, you do a rug pull, who cares? You do a Ponzi scheme, who cares? You're not going to be found. You're not going to be...
Unless you're talking too much on YouTube.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I mean,
I'm of course referring to the situation with market makers that recently happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Godbit, with CLS and some others.
So they were that vocal about it, and still...
Unfortunately, yes. Yes, it's a bad story because it's about good sentence for 20 years or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately.
But
I'm not wishing any evil thing to those person, but it
justice, only justice. But continuing on what I was about to say, I can mention the name of this very popular person. That is Logan Paul. Actually, Mr. Beast also did a rug pull, if you don't know about that. But I'm not going to get into the deep topic of discussing these people and what they've done in crypto. But the fact is there. they have managed to pull, especially Logan Paul, they've managed to pull a lot of rug pulls. They did a lot of influencer-backed scams, and CryptoZoo is one of the things that comes to mind when you're talking about like the biggest scam that they've probably tried to pull, and actually succeeded because a lot of people lost money. You're not able to put any kind of responsibility on these people because, again, when you launch a project, when you hype it up so much and the token rises to like a 10x or a 15x, everyone is happy. But then you have the founder who's sitting there thinking like, oh, my $1 million in tokens that I hold suddenly became $14 million because the token went up in price. What am I going to do? Am I going to keep that money there or am I going to sell? And you probably have to challenge yourself. Like hold yourself by the legs, destroy your computer in front of yourself instantly to not have the urge to click that button and sell everything off. And you wouldn't actually even be held responsible for that act, apart from the community backlash for doing such a devious act, because again, by the law, you're not doing anything wrong.
I mean, maybe it's a sort of lack of regulation here in the space.
Yes.
I don't know because, for instance, if you're a founder of a traditional company and you have a big stake in, for instance, your company stock is traded on Nasdaq, for instance, and in case you sell and this creates like a panic sell at us on the market.
Because this happens.
Yes.
Not even without the involvement of founders.
Yes. So I don't know whether you can be pledged guilty of anything. I don't know, but
you
maybe.
You can't because, again, the comparison that I'm trying to make is imagine 20% of all the holders of a certain token panic sold off of some news that China banned trading or something like that. Then everyone else who holds the other 80% of the total value, they're going to be at a loss. And it's the same thing here. It can be either one person or it can be either, a selective group of people. Of course, I'm not talking about like 51% hacks or something like that. But yeah, that big group of people, the majority of the holders of a certain token can actually sell and it would not make them, accountable for what happens afterwards. And the same thing happens with every single, bad project that doesn't have proper tokenomics, that doesn't have a proper vesting schedule for their token shares, that
I've been a lot of advisor for several companies that they plan to launch token, and the tokenomics was done by recent university graduate of mathematics or whatever with no knowledge in crypto whatever. And so I saw this every single time, unfortunately. So because nobody really thinks about tokenomics. So I would put it in a different way. Every single time when I'm talking about tokenomics, I'm not a specialist in tokenomics.
Yeah,
but
neither am I.
When I talking to people regarding their token model and so on and so forth, and if I don't hear two words or a sentence, then I just skip and say good luck, but I don't want to participate. These two words is game theory. If you do not apply game theory models into tokenomics, then it's not tokenomics. Because, of course, you need to use game theoretical models to manage this supply and demand, and reward system, and how to punish malicious activity, manipulation, and so on and so forth. And it's hard. It's a hard thing. It's not about what you can do in Excel. I mean, you can do this in Excel, but it should be done in a proper way, not in a way like with a recent, school graduate or whatever.
That's actually a very interesting take on tokenomics because... yeah, you're actually right. When I think about it right now, you would actually have a certain system that actually works that you probably copied from something else, like the economics of RPG games where you're able to sell your loot that you gained. Same
with the economics of national currency, for instance, because you always need to manage how to make a balance for
But that's
price.
very broad.
Yes, of course. But for tokenomics of particular projects, it's just a more narrow thing compared to the economy of the country or something. But it's in essence, it's the same. So you need to manage to inflows and outflows so that to make a balance. Because too much inflows is not okay, of course.
Yeah,
because you need to, in case of inflows, it would be deflation. But too much outflows, it's also not okay. So some sort of equilibrium should be found. It's a tricky thing to do. It's a tricky thing. And I'm pretty much surprised that still in 2024, 25 almost, we still see founders and teams that doesn't pay too much attention to tokenomics, that it can be done on your knees, whatever, just to send it.
You can use ChatGPT to write it.
Yes. It's really making me upset.
Yeah. I started using this tool that actually spots if anything was written by ChatGPT. And if someone sends me something, or if I'm doing research on a certain topic that I need to get to the bottom of, so actually not, just asking a question to ChatGPT, but actually going deep and actually discussing things, reading articles, I use this tool to check if anything was written by ChatGPT. And if it gives me like a number of 50% of this was written by ChatGPT, I'm not even going to read it, because again, why would I bother? I'm not going to research something that people that wrote something that I'm reading have not even researched on. And it's a very, very, very weird thing. And the same goes for the topic of tokenomics, because again, if you're not doing your proper due diligence on this very important aspect of a Web3 project, then you're failing and you're going behind everyone else. And not just going behind everyone else.
You can succeed with your main project, but you need to take into account that once you have a token, it becomes a separate one.
Yes.
So your main product and your token, it can be interconnected, whatever, and it's good if interconnected. But first, we didn't really see a good example of this except for networks. So we see Ethereum and Solana and so on and so forth. And the application here is pretty much obvious.
They have obvious...
Yes, use cases.
They have full ecosystems that are built around that same
but for
usability.
Specific project, it's hard.
Yeah.
And so if they interconnect, that's great. But typically they are not. And still, in that case, you need to manage token as a separate project and treat it as it is. If you don't do this, then happens what typically happens on market cap.
You're gonna have. You're going to go to the bottom of CoinGecko on page 160 now.
It's not even with rug pull or with any evil thought that may come into mind of founders, teams, or whatever. It's a natural evolvement of what would happen to your token.
Yes.
So,
another thing that bothers me, again, continuing on from this topic, it's the people that work in crypto. I mean, I get it. I was lucky because I managed to have a very interesting and delicate way of integrating to crypto, because I worked, my first ever job in crypto was a Web3 marketing agency. And the only thing that I had to do was analyze their marketing activities. So I didn't have to go and read the tokenomics, white papers and stuff like that. And I didn't have to learn about, different layer 2 projects, what sharding is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I had a very good time adapting, because I was able to process this information slowly. I was able to learn everything about crypto, the way I did it. And now I'm, a host of a podcast that is about crypto. I mean, obviously I couldn't have been happier about that. But a lot of the people, again, that work in crypto, I feel like they don't even know what they're talking about.
Especially in business development team.
Yes. I mean, I get all these messages all the time, and they're hard misses. Everyone is going to be trying to come with a proposal of providing liquidity for us. Meanwhile, we're an exchange aggregator. We don't even have our own liquidity pool. You see what I mean? And a lot of these things happen, and I see all these messages, and it really upsets me. And again, it brings me back to the question of education in the topic. And I really think that another hindrance to projects' proper evolution and proper, growth that you would have in your typical Web2 company that you're probably trying to establish. Because let's imagine you're selling shoes. What do you have to do? You got to sell good shoes, good-looking shoes. You got to partner up with a lot of shoe companies. You got to open different shops. You know what you kind of have to do.
You need to think about the rubber. You need to think about
material quality, etc. So you and me, we have a general idea of what it would be like. But again, a lot of people, they don't have this general idea of how to push that Web3 crypto project to greater heights, to the moon, as they say.
I mean that's pretty much predictable, given that in crypto we have this easy money.
Yeah.
And I mean,
but it won't be for the long run.
nobody knows. And everyone tries to live his own life like in a way that it's gonna like pump and dump and that's it. That's what I saw before I joined crypto. I was working in advertising business, not for long but still. So it was all about the CPA, CPI, whatever, so cost per action, targeting, user acquisition, so on and so forth. And I also had heard lots of buzzwords and shit talking in this space as well, because also easy money, not that much easy and not that much access as in crypto, of course, but still, like if you are submitting and if you are subscribing some big company with big marketing budget and so on and so forth and getting your commission, you're just a good guy, and you don't need to think about like the consequences of this and whether this campaign would be successful to the company or not. You're just getting your commission. It's pretty same logic as in Wolf on Wall Street. While they are thinking that they're getting rich, you are taking the commission.
Yeah,
that's it. In crypto, just with the excess of exaggeration. That's it.
funny how you mentioned Wolf of Wall Street, because I get these comparisons a lot, But the main premise of that movie is, of course, the guy who managed to scam a lot of people. But again, he learned from it, and now he's very successful. He's like a very good sales guy, I think. He does like master classes on these things.
I think, yeah.
But yeah, again, you can start with something bad, but again, you can learn from it, and you can actually adapt to what you're doing. You can become a pro in something that you're doing. And that is the thing that is going to give you success. And I think the most important thing of all for mainly crypto projects and mainly for, again, this global Web3 adoption and this very good look and very good eye from the people that are looking at crypto that we need from the people that are not into Web3. Because, again, as I mentioned, when we're talking about the bad things, of course, and obviously the bad things are going to be the main headlines. You're not going to see a headline of, a blockchain adapting to some kind of healthcare technology that is going to be able to, save lives, because that's not interesting. People need clicks. People need to brain rot more on Instagram.
It's also about the perspective, because in case you do not actually believe in crypto and blockchain, then you would behave that way, thinking only about your commission and so on and so forth. But if you are thinking about it in a sort of a long run, what are you going to do in 10 years or in 15 years? Maybe you're going to have such a perspective that you don't even anticipate now. You can have like business with Brian Armstrong of Coinbase or with someone else. But if you behave right now in that way, they're never going to shake your hand in 10 years.
That's absolutely right.
That's super important. Reputation matters, really matters.
I mean, a lot of the people that I've had on the podcast actually joined crypto very early. So you joined crypto in 2016,
Correct.
For which I respect you. And I think that you're a great guy. And I like this discussion that we're having, and I'm enjoying this discussion that we're having, and I'm enjoying the fact that you're actually a guest on this podcast, because you know so much about this. Imagine if it was someone that actually came into the room and only learned about crypto. It would not be an interesting conversation. In fact, there would be no conversation at all. But imagine if we go back to 2018 and people that were on the crypto bandwagon back then. So they were into crypto fully back then, even though it was frowned upon by everyone, essentially. It was not accepted anywhere. It was a very, unregulated thing to even consider. There was only Bitcoin. You could actually get Bitcoin by completing CAPTCHA back then. And imagine the people that worked in crypto back then and are still working in crypto now. Imagine the kind of success they must feel, and imagine the kind of belief and trust that they must have had in this technology to actually let them go through this.
They thought, they just had in their mind now fully emanated. It's a real thing.
That's it.
It makes you feel like, I don't know this feeling yet.
Yeah, it's got to be euphoric, because you're a frontier of this technology. And I definitely do feel like I'm also at the pivotal point of crypto convergence with Web 2 and Web 3. And I like the fact that I'm a host of this podcast also, obviously, because again, I'm going to look back at this time and in the future, I'm going to be probably among the top people that, work in crypto, because again, I just had so much experience. I mean, that is, in 10 years. But for someone who's going to join crypto in 10 years, it's not going to be the same. Just the same as, people adapting to banking apps. Because if you remember correctly, my dad was never, keen about using banking cards or, opening a bank account, because he thought, I have my money here in my safe. Why would I ever give money to a bank? Why would I ever not have that money with me and instead give it to someone so that they can do whatever they want to do with it? But now traditional finance and banking is inseparable. So you don't have people that use cash. Cash use has actually gone down significantly, like by 90% in most of the European countries and countries of the first world that actually are using these apps. And I know this because I read the yearly report of 2023 by Adyen, which is like the biggest payment service provider in the world, and they have actually noted that cash use is going down even more. And so I think crypto is going to be the next thing in terms of this adoption, because you had people back then looking at banking apps and banking cards, credit cards, debit cards, and they were frowned upon because, again, people thought, why would I give my money to them? I'd rather have it here. And same thing with crypto.
But as with any sort of advancement that we're going to have, we also can have a big drawback here. Because in case you have crypto, for instance, USDT, or in case of CBDC, especially in China, for instance, you can be banned from performing some of financial actions using your money.
Yeah.
Because it becomes programmable money. So you cannot spend money on this or on that. For some reason, it might be good. For instance, if your, alcohol consumption is huge enough, or so on and so forth, you have a prescription from a medical institution not to consume so much, you cannot pay for this, and so on and so forth. But this still opens a big room for manipulation.
Sorry to interrupt you, but that would actually be very great for overseeing the legal age of buying
correct.
cigarettes,
but once
alcohol.
Again, if system can be manipulated in that way, then we can be banned from some other things. And in case we have a decentralized stablecoin for payments and so on and so forth that not yet exist yet. I know Athena Labs, I even managed to talk to them recently, but still we don't see the decentralized stablecoin. And currently stablecoin that we have, they're pretty much centralized. One is registered in
they're all
New York,
centralized.
and second is in Bay Area. And so USDT that you have in your account, of course, we are not here about like counter sanctions and so on and so forth. Probably neither you nor me are doing these actions. But still, like with this, they can ban every single transaction that you have.
Yeah.
And that's the bottleneck that we can have here. So some other new
it's still a very acceptable bottleneck, because you have the same thing with every single currency,
of course,
native currency.
With any electronic money that you have, and most of the money that we have, as you said recently, is electronic money, because we are running out of cash. Not running out, but we are
there has to be a
cash.
reserve at least.
Yes, but every single transaction on your bank card can be blocked for reason. Sometimes it
for
can
reasons
be
unknown.
Yes. That's interesting question, how we can overcome with this, because of course we can use Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is not. It's like in case you're gonna use Bitcoin, it's the same as in case you're gonna pay for your coffee with Tesla stocks. You can, but why?
That's it. And this raises a question of whether Bitcoin and coins like Ethereum, whether there are securities, commodities, or like a brand new asset class.
As I see along the way, while I'm trying to think of different regulations and just make some research on them, in most of the advanced economies, they typically tend to name this as a sort of digital property. So finally, so not securities, not something, but property, because it somehow like resembles the way that property do, because they need to think about this, how this property can be transferable, how it can be in terms of the arbitrage in the court, and so on and so forth. So I don't know why, but they typically refer to property, digital property. I don't know.
Okay, that's very interesting. I guess we can actually stop that discussion there and actually move on to something else that I wanted to mention. Right. I mean, we can go on and on about it and make a billion comparisons, but I think in terms of the segment that we had and everything that we discussed, I mean, we managed to touch on the topics that are both bad and good, and we made some great comparisons, and I think that'll suffice for now. But if we are to, again, come back to the topic of a successful Web3 project, we've managed to discuss tokenomics, everything else. I mean, I'm not even going to, list everything that we discussed again, but we have managed to discuss so much that I think we've managed to give the listener, if you're listening to this podcast on Spotify or any other listening platform, or if you're watching this on YouTube, we've managed to give a great perspective of what is happening in crypto right now. I mean, this discussion was very general, and I'd like to end it with something that has pinpoint precision, and I'd like to give that chance to you, because from what I heard and from this discussion that we've had, I can see that you're a man of merit. You've been in this industry so far longer than I have been, and I'm very envious about that, because I'd love to have that experience that you have, of course. But I'd still like to think that I managed to hold my own in this discussion with you. And I'd like to give you a chance to talk about something that you are thinking about constantly about crypto.
Honestly, it's pretty much easy, because I'm really thinking about this. So just somehow answering your question regarding the successful project and so on and so forth. In crypto, unfortunately, most of the projects, they are not problem-solving driven. So problem-solving thinking is really important. That maybe the only thing that I really learned from business school, because all the rest of the education
there has to be a value for the product.
It should solve exact problem. So if we have a problem, then we can come up with a sort of solution, but it should be a real problem. Building yet another fancy marketplace, or build yet another DEX, for instance, with some sort of, I don't know, constrained liquidity or so on and so forth, it's already solved. In a nutshell, it's already solved. But if you have a real problem and if you have a feeling about real problem, then probably you can come up sort of solution. And of course, when moving from problem to solution, you need to come along with a team for this, and you need to hire a proper team to address those angles of this problem that you cannot personally address. So if I'm thinking, for instance, from the position of CEO of the company, so CEO should think about only three things. It's the vision, its team, and its money. But typically what I once again see is that in crypto, C-level management, they tend to discuss tweets that need to be published, or to discuss specific marketing campaigns, not like the pivotal one for the company and so on and so forth. And that's insane. Then I get approached by this team, by this C-level managers or founders, and they're saying that I have no time, 100% of my time dedicated to project and so on and so forth. And I see that he or she
chief tweet officer.
Yes, it's insane. So once again, I would say that it's really important to build this problem solving thinking, and trying to, when you are thinking about what can be built in crypto next day, or in 10 years or whatever, think about two perspectives. The problem should be either from the real world, so you're solving with the crypto real world problems, but in the second option, you should be a technically wise person, or at least you need to have technically wise person in your teams, because it's a bit tricky. You need to solve the problems that were created by crypto already. So for instance, the problem of scalability of Ethereum. We came up with this, not we, but I mean some teams came up with the idea of this L2s and so on and so forth. But then next problem arises, that now the commissions are down in Ethereum itself, because all the value accrual comes to L2s, and it's a problem for Ethereum now. And
because the nodes are not getting the rewards.
Yes. And it's a big problem, and probably that's why we see this surge in Bitcoin price and altcoin price, but not in Ethereum, for instance. I already expect Ethereum to hit 5K or something. It's never due.
It's been going on for years now.
Yes, and it's still unclear what they're gonna do. So once again, problem-solving thinking and a team. When thinking about the problem either inherited by crypto, or in real world, what you can solve with the crypto or blockchain technology. So I'll quote that in that way.
That's insanely close to what I think on this topic too, because I'm resonating with you fully, and I think you're absolutely right in terms of the problem-solving aspect of this industry. There has not really been a lot of problem-solving lately, but So hopefully there will be.
I used to work with some VCs as a sort of venture partner. It's outsourced person, not outsourced person out of VC company, but who has some deal flow with this particular company for commission or whatever.
Like a partner agent.
Yeah, sort of. And typically, my very first question to every single project that came across my just attention is that what problem are you solving? Because typically they don't have problem. And so we are building yet another like DEX or wallet or whatever. We are one raising money. For what?
An acceptance from the people. And people are not going to use your product because it's not solving a problem. Like
you can somehow overcome this obstacle, but in case you are a sort of
like a luxury brand.
Yes. In case you have already like a sort of a brand, you can build any sort of the projects not because you're solving some of the problem, but because you already have a fan base.
Yeah.
But it's totally different story.
Yeah, totally different things. I fully agree. I mean, a Gucci T-shirt is not solving any problem apart from my low self-esteem. Sorry, all Gucci wear. I mean, no shade thrown on Gucci, but I think that was great. That was the absolute pinnacle that I wanted to reach on this podcast episode with you, Nick, and I think you managed to hit all the points, with pinpoint precision up to 100. And I think that is going to be it for us today. Again, I just want to say that I've enjoyed this discussion a lot.
Likewise.
I've managed to learn a lot from you, and I managed to, further support all of my opinions and thoughts that I had on crypto because you actually managed to voice them, and you obviously having more experience than me. I'm feeling happy because I know, okay, I'm on the right direction. I think I'm definitely doing something right here. And with that assurance, I'm going to go into the next episodes and everything that I do in the future. And for you guys, that means quality content and more guests like Nick. Thanks you again for visiting. I do want to give you a chance to say your last words, so let's have it.
I just want to say that thank you so much for inviting me today. I hope that some of our readers would not be bored with our discussion.
They will not. I can tell you that.
And happy to see you next time in some time, maybe in a year or something, to check the progress that we both achieved and to discuss the next wave of problems in crypto space. That
would be absolutely great. I think we can come back even in a few months to check the state of things and how they're going, and of course get back to all the things that we managed to discuss today. But again, thank you, Nick, for coming to our podcast. I've enjoyed this a lot, and we'll see you guys next time. Make sure you stay tuned for our next episodes that are coming in. We're going to be uploading to YouTube everything that we have done so far on Spotify, so that's also a thing to look forward to. And of course, our expansion to YouTube content. I myself am very happy about that. We managed to cook up some interesting videos that you're probably going to enjoy watching. And we'll see you next time. Take care and stay safe.